Welcome back. You're watching Look Up TV. Let's find out what is happening at Bomas, where the tallying is going on. Henry is waiting for us there. Let's have a look at what he's doing.
As you have rightly put, we are live at Bomas of Kenya here in Nairobi, where the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, is continuing with the counting of results from all the 47 counties. The Forms 34As have arrived here, and the Commission is inspecting each and every Form 34A received from various polling stations to tabulate results and present the same results to the Kenyans to allay fears of a possible rigging because of a delayed result transmission. As we speak right now, out of the 290 constituencies, the Commission has been able to release the results of one constituency, that is Webuye East constituency in Bungoma County, where the Deputy President William Ruto has emerged a winner with 16,412 votes, followed closely by Raila Odinga, who has garnered 13,720 votes, and Waihiga Mwaura, who has garnered 110, and finally Wajakoya, who has amassed 249 votes from that particular constituency. It's one constituency out of the 290 constituency. This means 289 constituency are still to be tabulated, to be verified, and then their results published. It is a tedious process. It's a very slow process, but the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, maintains every detail, every verification must be taken with a lot of care, a lot of caution, to ensure the exercise is transparent and it's above board. So the process will be slow, but the Commission says it will remain steadfast in its mandate to ensure the country receives a credible poll. As we speak right now, the officers of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IBC, are still verifying results from other constituencies. From behind, you can see the process is ongoing, and the Commission is verifying every Form 34A to ensure results are received by form of PDF files on its electronic results transmission system, is verified, and it's captured as it is on the manual Form 34A before that particular result is tabulated and confirmed as a final result, and therefore issued to the public. That's the process that is ongoing currently. Not much is happening apart from receiving the physical copies from various constituencies and verifying those copies before the results within those copies are tabulated and transmitted. From 290, we are one constituency, and we are expecting results from the remaining 289 constituency. From Bomas of Kenya, that is the update for now. We will keep on informing our viewers as and when we receive news from this particular area. Back to you in studio, Louis.
We'll keep Henry close. He's at the Bomas of Kenya. Now in studio. Okay, I'm out Gandhi. I've got Dr. Kiringai Kamau. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Rino Geto is back. You were with us last night. This is heavy for me. Where do I start? There's too much knowledge in this room now. Let's start with a new one. Talk to us.
Yes,
Dr. Kamau.
Yes, Kiringai Wakamau is my name. I'm an agricultural economist. I teach at the University of Nairobi, and I involved in agriculture, food and nutrition. I look at matters to do with the food security and how it impacts the livelihoods of people through an understanding of nutrition and dietetics. Thank you.
How has this process been of interest to you? What you've seen so far?
Right now we are going through a process of electing the next government, and funding for agriculture comes from the government in many ways. So we are looking at assessing the investment opportunities that exist in the agricultural space, what the government is going to demonstrate as the potential changing from what we have known, that we don't have unga for ugali, we don't have maize, but we still have water that is going to the ocean. Our investment in water resources has been challenged. So we are looking at opportunities now that we have been told that there is a government that is going to come in place that is either looking at empowering people economically or looking at the bottom up and empowering people. So we see possibilities of getting engaged with a new thinking that will be looking at how do we help people and the communities to have the resources they need so that they can invest better. But more importantly, we are learning at a time when the country is heavily indebted. So importing food from outside is not an option. What do we have to do so that we can grow the food that we need ourselves rather than having to rely on outsiders? So there has to be policies and strategies that have to be put in place so that we can now start looking inwards in terms of providing and storing what we actually are producing, so that we do not waste as much as goes to waste currently.
Dr. Geto, that brings us back to where we started yesterday, and you're a strategist also.
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of that going out to the citizen? Do you see a lot of that going out to the voter? Are they being told why it is important that they choose the next government?
Yeah, the next government is certainly so important that we need to have a new change. We need to have our problems, economic problems, political problems, social problems fixed. So a new government in the offing is the best thing that is going to happen to Kenyans. But then again, Kenyans are witnessing quite a real roller coaster because it is day 3 now that Kenyans are. I think by now they ought to have learned on how to manage their expectations because the tallying of the presidential results is not an easy task. A couple of minutes ago, I saw the chairman IBC come out and start reading out result number 1 out of 290. He just confirmed to us the result for, is it Mumias West? And that is now number 1 out of 290, so 289 to go. So Kenyans need to brace for quite another grueling tallying exercise. So you need to know how to manage your expectations, manage your emotions. It is a slow process. But then I'm glad that IBC, for once, is looking like it is getting it right, because the results are now out in the open. Slowly, Kenyans are getting to have faith and confidence in the process, because once you get to the public portal, you can download copies of those 34As, forms 34As. You can do your independent tallying, and the chairman, as the national returning officer, he has to read out and confirm all the 290 forms 34Bs before the actual tallying.
Dr. Mao, is this a frustration for you because you're all set to start working on policy and you can hear we're still a long way to go? What does this mean for you?
I think policy formulation is normally very dependent from who actually leads the institution. So policies are already being implemented, others are being formulated. We are now in the agricultural space, looking at the next medium-term plans that define how we move. Actually, in the entire government, we're actually moving into the 4th medium-term plan that guides the Ministry of Planning to advise on where we invest the resources that are going to be generated within the next 5 years when we have a new government. So as far as policy formulation is concerned, the process started a long time ago when communities are being engaged in what we call medium-term framework engagement, and you are getting ideas on what is working, what requires to be done better, how is it supposed to be done. Now, with all that having been put in place by the Ministry of Planning, what then awaits is what is the new government going to bring. And all you need to do is, if this is the government that has won and this is their manifesto, you now sit with them so that they can tell you, this is, we have led what you have said is your policy. Now we want to marry that with our own vision as per our manifesto. So as far as we are concerned in terms of the policy agenda, and we are just waiting to be told that this is your new president, and he has come with this manifesto. Help him so that he can integrate it to the policy you are planning.
He might very well come in and say he wants another plan. What will you do?
Rarely will he bring anything that is so much different, because it is everything, even constitutionally, has to be advised through participation.
Technically, yes, but you understand these people have been making all kinds of promises as they go along. Does that affect you? When you talk about manifestos, do they actually adhere to them?
Let's say what will happen is that you actually distill the manifesto into some particular critical pillars that you actually want to align with what has already been developed by with community engagement. And various ministries actually do that. Agriculture, where I come from, is one that actually gets very much involved, because activities associated with what do we produce, how we produce it, what institutions we use, how those institutions will be used so that they can integrate to the governance process. And what we are getting is a new governance process that is guided by a manifesto that has come with somebody. So it is a matter of now looking at, because they have documented them, how do you marry those two?
You were out in Nyamira?
Yes.
Were they talking about such things? Because we talked about civic education,
yes,
and the reason for somebody to up and vote.
Yeah.
What is the situation in your area talking about agriculture?
Well, maybe because, or before I mention something about Nyamira, I may want to take a chip on the policy formulation, which I know is not easy. Policy formulation requires political goodwill, it requires expertise, it requires priorities, because the government of the day might decide that maybe what their key agenda would be on ABCD. It started off with the Millennium Development Goals, which were later shortened into being the Sustainable Development Goals. You saw the outgoing government talk about the Big Four agenda, which we are yet to evaluate and see whether they were achieved or not. So in matters policy formulation, when the new government takes effect eventually, depending on their manifesto, I think they would want to pick on what they think is the priority areas. I've had the two formations talking about social development, others are talking about economic development, others are talking of strengthening food security, among other things. But then policy is not so popular among the voters. Yesterday we talked about civic education and people getting to know why they do vote and why they should vote. So matters policy becomes something that is not so popular. They rather would want to listen to the very beautiful speeches that the politicians are making, the promises that they are making that many times look so not so realistic. That they are going to do this, they are going to do this, they are going to achieve this, they have set aside this for a particular sector of the economy. But then it is high time that the voters or the Kenyans took those manifestos seriously. Each of us need to have that copy so that the government that carries the day would want to hold them accountable. This is what you said on item number 1. Number 2, 3, 4, up to 10 or 15. so that we can keep track of their performance.
Dr.
If you
Kamau.
mention something on food security, then we would want to check that and mark against
I'm just
that.
wondering, for Dr. Kamau, you worked hard on the policy. You're ready to continue as it is because you say it's a working document. What happens when somebody goes into office and they've made promises based on 100 days? How does that affect you?
Let's say that when you have policies, policies advise strategies, and strategies advise the actions that you have to carry out. In a sense, what you are trying to look at is within the strategic direction that has been created for the government. We run on Vision 2030, which is the blueprint for the country within a given period of time. That is not going to be changed because a new government has come. The only thing we will do is now look at what do we define within that vision, the actions that we have to carry out so that we can achieve them. And even when they are formulating their own manifestos, they consult those documents. So we are not going to say that there's something really removed from the ongoing initiatives of the government is actually going to be brought on board. All what you are trying to say is, did they address this? How well did they address it? Do we have to consult with them so that we can advise them that you promise this, but in order for us to integrate this within this, then you have to address these particular steps. Remember, at the end of the day, it is the financial resources that the government or the country is able to generate that will actually fund whatever you have come up with as your own manifesto, and therefore integrated into the policy that you actually want to integrate into your 5-year planning. So that 5-year planning is what we call the medium-term plan. So that medium-term plan is integrated. The president that is now retiring defined his as the big four. And you will not find that in the Vision 2030. But you actually have now to look at, you have already a strategy around health, you have a strategy around agriculture or food security, you have something about housing and manufacturing. And you have to now look at that and tool this provision or this dream that the president has come up with, and you have to integrate that. So what we are trying to do is wait and listen to whoever is pronounced as the leader, and then we are now looking at what is it that they are bringing that is different from the Big Four. If they actually say they will continue with the Big Four, we continue with Big Four.
If they shelve it?
If they shelve it, then they will most likely not say that no more treating people when they fall sick. No one will say that. So
I'm just wondering, because this is really, it's helpful. There's a policy in place, but you know what we do? We come into office and 100 days, we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 10. Where is that disconnect?
That is the most unfortunate thing, Louis, because there ought to be a continuum, because when you look at independence, President Jomo Kenyatta had promises that he made for the Kenyans, that he was going to fight disease, he was going to fight illiteracy, among other things. And when you do a check now, we still are grappling with those key things or key challenges. So when you formulate policy, then it ought to be in some sort of a continuum that the government of the day, whatever they had set out, for example, let's take an example of the Big Four. The Big Four, if you're talking about manufacturing, you're talking about housing, you're talking about food security, among other key areas, then the government that is coming in should be picking on where the last or previous government stopped and then keep on improving. If it is infrastructure, we see you improving on infrastructure. If it is education, but then the catastrophe that we got is that everyone would want to come and behave as if they are starting on a new slate, that it's a new Kenya that is different, yet we are the same people that have been surviving through the previous regime. And we were given those promises which we believe or expect that ought to have been completed, or when you're coming to office, you ought to pick them and complete them. But then now we have so many policy documents that are gathering dust on the shelves. So if you look at what Jomo Kenyatta had, very beautiful ideas, beautiful notes on paper, they are shelved somewhere. When Moi came into place, he also promised us, he did what he did. Kibaki came in, you saw what Uhuru, or rather Kibaki and Raila did, and Uhuru and Ruto, and now they're coming in president. So like Dr. is saying, we ought to have a continuum, that all of them are pegged on Vision 2030 or the Sustainable Development Goals. Their policies are extractions of such blueprints that are standard and global in nature. So once you extract that, then I would expect that you dispense with it, or where the new incoming government gets it because they are good ideas and thoughts, you would want to run away with it so that you turn around and transform the lives of Kenyans.
Dr. Kamau, does this frustrate you as a policymaker? Because you're working with people who have a voice. They will be here every day of the week if we call them. But your voices are not heard, and yet you're the ones in the planning process. Is that frustrating for you?
Well, you know, everything about the existence of the humans is dynamic. And the thing that makes life worth living and exciting is that dynamism. We want to change what has been within the reality of today. We define the environment within which we live. So we are defining now a political environment, an ecosystem of things that is different from what we have been having before. So to that extent, what will actually make it more exciting is when you actually hear that this is a person who is focused on something that the other one may have been focusing on but didn't go deep enough. When the current government that is now almost out came into power, they found infrastructure going on with Kibaki. That one they didn't stop. They actually went further. So the thing is, you look at how much are they amplifying what is already existing. What tools do I need to put in place? What is the new arsenal of resources that I need to ask for so that I can make this this requirement that is coming to be a reality? In most cases, just like at Independence, we say that we want to address education, ignorance. We want to educate sickness. And we want to address issues to do with poverty. Now, if you look at the word poverty, how you address it and its integration with food is so easy that if you are hungry, you actually cannot be able to fight poverty. But if you produce more food, then you can sell some and you actually will retain some in terms of eating, and others in terms of converting it to financial resources, and wealth is realized. So in a sense, what we are trying to say is that you will not go beyond looking at solutions associated with education and how people are empowered so that they can address issues that pertain to themselves. You will not go and look outside. How you will be looking at issues to do with health. And that was what was defined by us at Independence. So we don't do anything different. The only thing I will do is that I will come and see Dr. Louis, who actually says that I have this innovation that I have discovered, and you are integrating Louis' innovation so that it can help the new requirement that is coming. So we will not in any way require that the new government comes in and they are telling us something that is out of the world. They will actually tell us things that we have done, and we will only be configuring ourselves so that we can address what
Their promises are out of the world. Now when we talk about that, you've just talked about expectations, you've talked about patience.
Yes.
You're telling Kenyans, wait for the tallying to be done. As they wait, do you think they're thinking of such things? Or they just want to see a name?
They want to see a name, and once the name is declared and people get to office, we'll get back to our things. We'll get back to our businesses, we get back to our hustling, as it were, and we forget about the leaders that we put into office. Nobody is going to hold them into account.
So we are putting IBC under undue pressure.
We are putting IBC in undue pressure just because we want them to declare, and we are relieved. I think there is a lot of tension and pressure that is building up because of these expectations and very specified direction or progress. When you saw the IBC chair say that he's starting with number 1 out of 290, and then Kenyans were taken aback. Wow. How long are we going to wait for?
They have 7 days.
Again, they have 7 days. We have a balance of about 5 days now, or 4 days. We are still, so if you go to the streets of the capital in Nairobi, it is just empty. You cannot get businesses running, you cannot, the matatu sector, you cannot find, the roads are very clear, and people are not quite sure of what is going to happen next. They are uncertain. I think that is why they need to be relieved, so that they can ease and get back to their households, even when they are not going to be keen on following up with the government that takes the day and ensure that those policy items that Daktari here is mentioning are going to be realized and they're going to be held accountable. Once again, it goes back to civic education. You realize that public participation aspect was introduced to our constitution a few years ago in the current constitution, the 2010 constitution, and it has not been implemented to the fullest. Because public participation, that is where it starts. The policies that we are talking about, that we need to be involving the strategists. We involve the professionals, these experts, technocrats. We also involve the local mwananchi in coming up with these policies. We say, this is what we need about food security. What are we going to do? We engage experts, we do everything. This is what we're going to do in education. Now we are dealing with CBC, the competence-based curriculum, which until now majority of the Kenyans haven't understood, and we don't know how it is going to gel with, say, the education system. Once we get our children from the lower levels transiting into university, that I don't believe practices CBC, then what is going to happen?
Dr. Kamau, where did you vote?
I voted in Westlands.
Okay. Oh, now like at least there's a discussion there to do with policy. And so I thought you went to the village because I had to ask you. But I know you know people there, and I know they talk to you.
Yes.
As they're waiting, are they saying anything apart from who has won? Are they talking about other concrete expectations?
Other than voting in Westlands, which I did out of convenience, because when I was actually coming to renew my voting center, my polling center, I actually went to the one that was closest because I was actually in transit. So I really wanted something that is close enough for me to be sure that I can confirm that I will be voting. Now, I'm also an operator in my own village and constituency. I'm a farmer.
Tell me about it.
So I'm a dairy goat farmer. I produce and process milk from my goats, and I supply goat milk to consumers. And I also train the community on how they can do good agricultural practices. So to that extent, I am very interested in whom we elect as the MCA, because everything that I do happens in my village level. my farm is in a village. The community that I train and I organize them into a cooperative, I organize them on the basis of the understanding that if you want to influence policy, you must have an organizational framework to help you have a voice. So unless we help our communities, that we go back to where we used to have organizational frameworks that used to be called social organizations, welfare organizations, cooperatives, that people can speak to, and we elect Daktari so that he is the one who is now leading us. Why? Because we like the way he cuts his hair. He is actually a clean man. We want somebody who is actually going.
What if he doesn't know how to give a good speech? Because that's why we vote.
There are people who lead from behind. And we like him because he actually shapes the directions we take from where he sits, and he can actually see far even when seated down. So they will pick a person on the basis of that. The only challenge that we will have is up to the last few days when the CDF has been declared illegal. We have been knowing that the person who actually comes will also come with a bursary, will have to come with some money that he can give to groups, organized groups. Now they will actually be not talking much to us. They will have to now strategize. They will have to understand policy. Now, if you elected a guy who cannot actually read, and you expect him to go and interpret policy for you, and go and now engage institutions, including the governor's office. And governors will actually be very strong people now, because they are the ones who will be receiving now requests from the MPs so that they can actually now fund activities that were otherwise going through the CDF. Now, if you don't have an organized structure on the ground that is going to be now engaging the government or the private sector or development partners or Louis and his passionate appeal to supporting communities, because we have very philanthropic people in this country. So if you do not have a way of these people at the grassroots engaging with whoever comes, then we fail. And the reason why we have failed as a country is because we lack the capacity to build institutions or organizational frameworks that we can engage so that they can be the ones that are the front that somebody coming from outside sees. If I go to his village, he will most likely talk generally about it. I go to your village, you most likely be talking about what you have heard people do. Very few of us go to the village. Now, to your question, yes, I am very much interested in what my governor. We actually have an interesting system in the entire Central. You know, we have gone very yellow.
Oh, the guys whose vote matters this time.
Yes, the guy you voted was actually elected on the basis of a party that actually has a doctrine that they say is going to be done this way. If he has no clue how that big picture is going to be implemented on the ground, you're done. And even when the money comes, it is not going to be channeled in a way that it helps you as a people.
But this guy is going to be there for 5 years.
And he's
what
going
will you do? Right now, you're all waiting to hear his name or her name.
Well, I know them all because I'm involved on the ground. And the reason why I know them is because we have realized, we were in that space. We have had a governor who actually said everything good when we were electing him. And he got in and he told us all the nice things. And the minute he is actually able to go and talk to the grassroots people and transform their thinking to be hard-out driven. You know, the governor that we actually are now retiring in my county will come with the potato vines and tell people that, you know, you come and plant this. They give you a very good sweet potato. And because it is free, people will actually go for them. And they think that he's actually a very nice guy. How much one vine costs is different from how much it is recorded. So no one can audit that. So when you actually say that we gave this guy to actually now suppliers with potato vines, and
we waited
because it was for the
expectantly for
entire
him to
county,
win.
we actually paid him so much, even if he didn't receive it, but he signed a document that says that he actually received this money. And then I only need to add a few zeros or a few whatever. You can't account for that. So what we are trying to say is there has to be a system of delivering resources to where investment is required. And we have the systems in the country. We have, right now, if the taxman wants to know how much you actually are spending, he can.
You have the systems.
Yes.
Do you have the names? Because I'm just wondering, all these things, they sound good, but somebody has voted, and all you're just waiting for is who won. How do we translate this into real expectations? So that as people wait for IBC, they have reasons to wait for, did Dr. Ogeto win? Did Dr. Kamau win? Because it could mean something to them. Not just, there's a winner. What do we do now? We wait for the 100 days. Where do we go? Because IBC is under pressure.
It started off with the constitutional threshold for one to be nominated, to be flying a party colors or getting the nomination. That is where we had the conversation about we got to have people that are literate. You got to have at least a degree for, say, gubernatorial candidate and the president. Remember, there was the same requirement to apply to the member of parliament and the senator and the MCA, but then it was fought in the floor of parliament because it is believed that for you to interrogate a policy paper, for example, for you to get to know and make sense out of the accounting figures, because there is budget making, which is complex, you need to know who gets what region gets what, and how then do you divide that to various projects that you've set forth, and how do you evaluate the quality of the work that has been done and how much has been spent. Therefore, we need those leaders. And this is the conversation that we have had previously, that we need leaders that can interrogate, leaders that can read and understand certain documents for them to make sense. So that when we are expecting so much from IBC now to declare the names, then we know this is the right person that we want in this office who is going to work for us. And then we are going to support them and get to hold them to account and follow up to the last coin and how it was spent.
Is this the case, Dr. Kamau? Are you saying names that are encouraging you that what you're saying will come to pass?
The thing is, for us to have elected somebody, we actually listen to him tell us what he will do. So we have expectations that are clear. What may lack is the systems and measures that are put in place so that we can be in a position now to quantify the achievement of that. So, and that is now where the governance framework that is coming in within what these gentlemen and ladies are going to be bringing. We want them to tell us that this is the vision that we are presenting in this manifesto. We have very clear milestones of how to achieve them. And we will want to have, from this position where we are, this is how we want to move. Everybody has been telling us how indebted we are. We do know that we are, and that is why we actually don't have money in our pocket. So for that reason, if there is something that we are interested in, is to see the unga price move from whatever price it is
over
today,
there,
to a level that we have
over here.
We have been used to. So we are interested in seeing that happen. So in the event that that doesn't happen, and you are coming here and telling us that I have this manifesto, we will definitely be telling you we are not seeing it.
And if I tell you I'll do it in 100 days?
And if you tell me that you are going to do it in 100 days, I am going to be there in 100 days. So when it is done and you don't achieve it, then I will actually be asking, is this guy real? And the minute there is going to be a credibility gap.
But they've never been recalled. What will you do to me at that point?
Look,
if I go there and go to sleep, what will you do? You cheered me, you put IBC under pressure, I gave you money, and I won. Now I've gone to sleep. What will you do?
What happens is that now, before we didn't have government structures that we can always go to and complain. Right now, say as much as you can say about our government system, we now have a very well-structured government framework where you have a national government and you have county governments and you have now elected people up to the ward level. That is why we have the MCA. I can guarantee you the persons who, and we also have the provincial administration, the chiefs and the assistant chiefs. I can guarantee you that the person who will be receiving the biggest of pressure now is the MCA. And if there is a person who would want to do everything and anything that they need to do so that the pressure is eased, it is the MCA going to the county assembly and passing on that pressure to the speaker, and the speaker now pushing that to the governor, and the governor now going to the treasury and making noise or through whatever framework. And you will start seeing, and this is the beauty of reducing the avenues of hemorrhaging financial resources from the government. Because now, having one where you say that this is only going to go through the county government, now the pressure is going to be defined by the households, which will aggregate what they want. And that is why we are saying it is very necessary that we have a framework that can now aggregate all the requirements. Even churches are actually institutions that can be used to actually address that. And they are the ones that are going to make more noise.
So we shouldn't be afraid of the names? I want us to look at some of them.
The names would be critical. We actually elected them, so we know them. In every location, there is no one who doesn't know whom they elected. The only thing that happens is when we are seated here, we may not know who was elected in our village. In fact, I called one of the guys who was a returning officer in my village and asked him, whom did we elect? Now he will tell me that here we only elected people from this color. So they will not tell you that they elected a person. They will tell you the color, the color code.
Now we're using color codes.
Yes. So for that matter, the person who is going to receive a lot of pressure
has a color on him.
No, is the owner of the color. So if you are the one who told us that we actually dress blue or yellow, and we dress that way, and then what you promise is not coming, you will come in another 5 years.
I'm in gray. Let's see some numbers and some names if we have them to compare. I hope they're ready. I want to see some numbers. I want to see some names. Gentlemen, you've seen some names, you've seen some results. How is that working for policy now?
Well, I can see some new interesting names. I can see Okiya Omtata. I can see Jalango, that is Felix Odiwuor, for Langata constituency. I have seen, is it Kawira for Meru County, among others. But then the job that they are coming to do is well defined. Like Dr. has said that we got structures and we got expectations. When you look at devolution is, devolution is 10 years old, meaning that now we know that devolution ought to work. We need to know that our agriculture has to be fixed, our healthcare has to be fixed, our education has to be fixed. So there is a lot of expectations that we are, and hope that we have in the new faces that we are seeing.
What do you think, Dr. Kamau?
Yes, I think the names we have seen.
Are you encouraged?
Some of them are, I saw Aris Wahome. I come from Muranga, so I am actually interested in looking at what is happening.
We're interested now, you people have voted.
Yeah, and we actually, we voted very well.
We still don't know that.
And as I have indicated, we voted on the basis of there was a promise of the bottom up. Now, what we are waiting them for, and they need to know, is that we will define, we are the bottom.
Okay.
We will define what we want. My work as a person who engages with the community through capacity building is to train them to actually make those who promise to deliver what they say they will bring. And we will actually go there, and I don't go alone. I actually go with a multitude of other professionals from my own county. And we say that this is what we actually want to see being achieved. And so we will deliver that to the community.
You know, these fellows don't like people like you very much.
No, the thing is, you don't have to be liked when they are starting.
How do you deal with that?
But
They don't like people like you very much.
Yeah, in the process, they will actually like you because they see you are guiding them. And if you are persistent, majority of us don't actually change much. He will tell you, Ogeto will tell you, that when he started his civic education, empowering people, he was actually a bit cagey. He doesn't know whether it will be accepted. But as you continue, you actually realize, I can even invest here and I will invite people. Like in my own, I mean, I didn't choose to actually go to the village. I was given some piece of land by my dad. And when he passed on, there was nothing I could do. I actually had to think, what do you do when you are given land by your father and he has left you to be responsible for that? So I choose it to be a demonstration farm for the village. And it has actually emerged to have a life of its own.
But if I come there,
yeah,
and I'm in office, I'm going to listen to you, but I'm going to be looking over your shoulder, as we say, uko na watu.
And that is now where, because you asked me that question, next time you come, I will have the people. I will make sure that the watu are there. And there are ways of getting people to get engaged with something that is adding value. Let me tell you this. If you go to the marketplace, people walk there. Why? Because if they come with something that they have plenty of, that they are not able to consume in their house and they bring it there, they will find a buyer. The market system is such a strong tool to be used by anybody at the grassroots that you will actually now say, look people, we can actually create a market here. Bring what you have, we will market it together, and our Mheshimiwa Louis will actually come and assist you to actually take it to the city.
Because you've come with watu.
Yes, because I have come with watu.
Let's see which watu are in Bomas of Kenya. Who's going to watu? Who has the numbers? We're going to Bomas of Kenya. Henry, talk to us.
We continue in prayer for peace. Almighty God, we pray for peaceful coexistence as people of different religion, ethnic identity, and political opinion. We pray that the order of life may grant us to accept each other as brothers and sisters. May we be united and restrain ourselves from divisive thoughts and actions so that peace may reign in our country, and may we embrace brotherhood and sisterhood as pillars of our social interaction. Lord, we pray that peace may cover this country of Kenya as the waters cover the sea. Bind us together, Lord, with cords of love that cannot be broken. We pray this through Jesus Christ, our Lord.
Prayer for patience, prayer against anxiety as we await for the results. Almighty Father and God of all creation, we know that you express your will through people in a democracy like ours. As we await for the tallying and announcement of the results for various elective positions, especially for the President, we graciously and with humility ask that you gift us with the virtue of patience. Deliver us from all forms of anxiety, so that hoping and trusting in your will, we may demonstrated in the final results. We ask of you, you who move and live and have our being, Lord, graciously hear our prayer.
We now want to conclude this session by continued thanks to God that He remains God to every individual, to our nation, to the institutions of this country, and to every one of us. And now we want to end by saying the words of the grace. And now may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and forevermore. Amen.
Thank you very much, the Most Reverend Jackson Olesapit and your team for being with us at such a critical time and for praying for this country as we wait for the results. We want to thank you very much for holding us together. We believe that a country that prays together holds together. Thank you, and let's continue with the choir on the background as the verification team continues to do their work. God bless you.
Gentlemen, we talked about this. The level of tension has gone so high. Part of it miscommunication, part of it deliberate. What, in your opinion, got us to that space?
The minute you mention data, whatever is happening, every transaction that happens generates some data. Interpreting that data is a key challenge. Right now, we have every media house, because they were given all the Form 34, is it B?
34 A's.
A's,
Yeah.
And they are supposed to download them and analyze them and tally them for themselves so that they can share. So what is happening is they gave us a link, and just like we are now castigating the politicians and their ability or inability to actually lead and write, journalists are taught how to write, not how to do statistics. So if you tell a journalist who is actually taught to tell stories, to actually now start analyzing data, numbers from forms,
not a good idea.
It is not a good idea. So
not a good idea. I can tell you that it's not a good idea.
So the mess we are in right now, we are in a mess of communication by people who have always said Chebukati is not working. He is refusing with the forms. Now they have been given all the forms, and instead of giving us a unified story, they are giving us a distorted story that is nursing the anxiety. So what is it that we can do so that we address that? I think this is, they say that when you lose, don't lose the lesson. This is a very important lesson. We actually need to now, when we say that we need to have a structure, we need a structure around now the dataization of what is received from these guys when it comes from the portal that is public. Who should be responsible for interpreting and transmitting to journalists who only know how to tell the story once everything has been analyzed? And I think that is where
I don't have any forms on it. Let me assure you, I don't have any forms on it.
Maybe now that I teach journalism and communication, let me come to the rescue of the journalist. That
you should be talking to him.
Yeah, that we have what we call data journalism, which is quite a new concept. And I know now journalists are taken through data journalism, how to handle data, how to interpret data, and before they come for your
you've left it late.
Yeah.
You've left it late.
Yeah.
We're already in tension, now the church has to intervene.
Yeah, but then we are in a very unique situation, honestly. As we speak, we are in a very unique situation politically that we have what we call a political ivory, which is so close. In statistics, we call it a dead heat. Mm-hmm. The numbers are moving hand in hand. So it's a very unique situation. IEBC, from our history from 2007, way back in 1997, 2007, 2008, they have had lessons to learn. The courts have intervened. We have the Supreme Court also intervening. We had the Krieger report after the 2007 general elections. So all those events have compounded a lot of pressure. They're exerting a lot of pressure on IBC, which now wants to sanitize itself. There has been a lot of pressure towards IBC. They want to try to do the right thing as we speak. They are struggling. Maybe they've not been doing it previously. They are trying to do the right thing. That is why the process has to take longer. Kenyans have to brave for this way. They need to find a way of managing the expectations. However, like Dr. is putting it, we are in this era of enlightenment, the era of information. We are in the information age, where everybody has a gadget that is connected to the internet and they are sharing information. It could be fake news, it could be misinformation, disinformation. There is a lot of information and data, as it were, in the air as we speak. We don't have the capacity to interpret and consume that data. It is so overwhelming. I like the fact that now the church is coming in. They have looked at the situation and they have realized that the Kenyans are hurting. The tension, the depression, people are not so sure whether they want to watch the television, yet after 2 seconds they want to go back and see whether something else has changed. The rate at which IBC is also coming to give pressers, because they are now the key people, they are the important persons as we are expecting them to be. So the church is coming in to pacify. Kenyans need God at this time. Kenyans need to be told to hold the peace. Kenyans need to ease the pressure. They need to ease the tension because, like the exercise looks, it might take longer than is expected.
Dr.
Even the
Kamau.
7 days that have been provided for constitutionally might not be enough.
Oh my goodness. Help IBC. What would you tell them?
IBC, I would tell them that they are doing a good job. The tallying is now digital, combining a digital process with a manual process, and expecting that the results that you will actually be showing are coming from a combination of the digital process and the manual process is a confusion. It is necessary for them to actually now go and interrogate their digital processes better and make that more automated for the next time. Actually, the process of transmitting data from every tallying center, not tallying, polling center, was super. This time, KIEMS or whatever it is that we actually dealt with, they worked fine. A few failed, like where I was. But when you actually now transmit this, is it possible to actually teach the processes that come to the IEBC to now extract the figures and report them as fast as possible? There is need to digitize the process of tallying of the results that are coming from a polling center.
Information gap. Okay,
Yes.
now help Kenyans. They're anxious.
Yes.
What would you tell them?
Kenyans, I think the intervention from the church is apt.
Mm-hmm.
They need prayers. And I think we are tying too much attention to this political process, which is an important political process. But as it stands, we have a government that has decided to actually extend the non-working days so that we were given only 1 day as a holiday. And now, people are still in their villages
Only in
waiting for
Kenya.
results.
Only in Kenya.
Yeah.
They should not wait in the houses. They should go back to work. And the results will find them as they go, because this process is not actually changing anything. And knowing who is going to lead us, because we tie politics to our lives too much. It is time we actually liberated politics and living. And we are doing that too judiciously. We want to be assured that whatever I'm doing is helping me by me knowing whether I'm being led by Baba or by Ruto. It really doesn't change anything in your life. Or Wajakoya. Sorry,
Come on.
Wajakoya.
Did you have to go? We were serious. We were serious. We were beyond that.
No, the figures are showing that we actually don't have Wajakoya.
Okay.
Thank you.
We actually are having two leads that can actually take this leadership.
See what happens in this people of information.
Yes. That is why he is a journalist.
Yes.
So, what we are trying to say is, let us now harness the opportunity that comes with the knowledge that politics has its own life. Our incomes don't come by sitting down. They come from engaging with people who are helping you transact, and in the process you get paid. So if you are not doing that, if you're just sitting in the house, if you are not doing what you do to generate an income, you are failing. So let us convince our people that we do not have. I today was asking one of my farm hands. I told you I'm a farmer. So one of the gentlemen went to vote. So I gave them, anybody who wanted to go and vote, go and vote. So he went, and he didn't come. He went the day before yesterday.
He hasn't come back?
No, he came back this morning. But the day before yesterday, he said, I'm not coming because I voted late, so I'll come tomorrow. So yesterday, he didn't come, and he didn't even communicate that he's not coming. So today, I actually tried to call him, and the phone was dead. So mteja hapatikani. So I go for my business. And when I'm in college, he calls me. He says, yeah, I came back. I say, thank you very much. You can't ask him very many questions. But you know that you actually have lost a day. You are going to actually give your own time to the person who has employed you. And you are doing what you are supposed to do. But the person who you actually now rely on so that he can do the things that you also want to see happening because they have some value. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that let us convince all those people who are in their houses waiting for results to be announced and to be annoyed or happy that your candidate has won. That has its own space. And let us not make our bishops so anxious that they actually think that this is the time to earn. He said it, that this country needs God at this hour. The only reason why we need God, he said that, the reason why we need God is because people are making themselves desperate. We are not desperate. We have a process that is ongoing. We have a man who is put responsible there, and we have said it, that right now he wants to do it right because he's a lawyer and he doesn't want to go standing in front of other lawyers telling him that you messed.
He's scared, politically, he's scared.
Yeah.
Information, you are the culprit.
Yeah.
Help.
Information is necessary. IBC are doing the right thing and they don't have an option and they got to do it correctly. We don't want to hear of another thing that is going to make us think of another thing. We need that. The government needs to assure Kenyans that everything is in place, their security is assured. Our kids are going back to school on Monday. They ought to travel this weekend. We got to have that assurance from the government. We got to see businesses opening and operating. We need to see matatus on the roads, ferrying people from where they had gone to vote and coming back.
But and nobody sent them away. And
they were not sent away, but then they are working based on the past. Every electioneering period, we usually have discomfort amongst people. So there are people who, for fear of the unknown, had to leave their places in Nairobi and they went back to the villages. They need the assurance that everything is going to be okay, everything is fine, for them to come back and move on with their lives. There are people who had taken themselves to go and vote. They also are waiting to see what is going to happen. Is there going to be a leader declared and we go back to our lives? What is going to... So there is some air of uncertainty.
It's because we keep thinking it's up to the other person. These same people you're talking about, it is up to them.
Yes.
Why are they behaving like somebody else has to finish the process, somebody else has to vote, and hurry up because I want to go back to work?
Yeah, but then that is how we've been operating historically, that we need to wait for this. You know, we cannot remove politics from the lives of people. Everything is pegged on this process. Don't be lied to that we can assume our normal lives without this process being concluded. It has to be concluded, it has to be done and dusted. Let's know there is a leader in office and then let them roll out their policies and start working, and then we also assume our jobs. But then until then, this declaration of the results and the eventual swearing in of the leader or the president is holding everyone, is holding businesses, and that is not good for this country.
Describe like what you think of Nairobi now.
Like Daktari is saying that we were given only Tuesday, which was declared a public holiday. But then ever since you hear is one of his workers decided to walk back to work at will when they had not been cleared. So people are still waiting for this process to conclude before they assume their normal duties.
Describe what you've seen in Nairobi. I mean, people disappeared.
Yeah, but
We did not know that they all went to vote.
Yeah, but
they cleaned out the supermarkets.
You see, in the
the only
village,
good thing is there's been no traffic, but now they're creeping back in.
Yeah, they're creeping back. Let me tell you this. You know, in the village, a cow or a goat will have to be milked in the morning and in the evening. There is no break. And the cycle is actually clear. When you are working in a farm, you go vote, come back, and you have to continue doing what you are doing. And there is nothing different from the office that you work. Right now, I'm excited that I can actually see Rui sitting here and he's actually working.
And I don't have any forms.
And you, you didn't have to download any for your own kind of work, because all you needed is to actually call me and I'm here.
Good.
Now, no forms, individuals, you actually summon them. We are here to actually now look at this and see, is what we are waiting for going to be benefiting our people in one way or another, and how do we structure ourselves within that dimension so that we can say this process requires to change. And I don't want to actually agree with the Daktari here that it has to be done and dusted so that we are back to our processes. What I would really want to urge us as a country is to separate our politics and our production and productivity, so that we know that politicians will follow this stream, and we have now learned that they will tell us stories that are not true.
100 days.
100, well, some of them may actually live to the 100 days because some people actually commit to do it and they do it. But they have to tell us something that we can see. But their own measure, let us put very clear measures of how somebody achieves what they told us they will do, and let us have the institutions to follow them other than ourselves, so that we can actually leave our institutions working. Politics is an institution on its own. So let us create the institutional framework to deal with politics while we actually deal with productivity. The minute we shall be able to separate those two, that we can actually say we have elected him to be our leader. He is the one who is going to be engaging these guys and requesting them what we want to be done. And then we are here, our work is this. And of course, we cannot separate Africa, we cannot separate God. So there will be another part of ourselves, the one that is religious. So the religious, the productive side, and the political side. The minute we shall have a system organized in a way that it allows people to understand the difference between those three, and you actually hold politics with a pinch of salt, not as the guiding light for our lives, then we will actually have achieved something.
There is your client, you're the strategist. Carve out a message for me. Now you're the information guy. Give me a message. Your client has spoken. He has a message he wants you to disseminate.
Well, I still insist that you cannot divorce people from the politics. Politics is not for politicians. The people voted in. IBC is tallying the results. They're going to declare the politicians who are going to work for the people. It is, it involves everybody. The people are stakeholders in this exercise. That is why we are waiting for the results to be declared. We get a president, we inaugurate the president, and the president starts working and will be supporting them. The people ought to be patient. They need to learn to manage their expectations. By now, people need to go back to their businesses as they await IBC do their thing. The government needs to come out and assure us that we are okay, that Kenya is safe. Let people go back and do their businesses as usual, even as we await the results.
So you were not surprised that we're going to be home for another few days?
We are not supposed to be home. I mean, we were given Tuesday as a public holiday to go for voting. On Wednesday, businesses ought to have opened. I know the education sector where I belong, I teach at a university, we were given until the 22nd. The basic education institutions have been given until Monday, the 15th. So we are well within the timelines, if I can speak for myself. So I'm expecting that from the 22nd, that is the day after next week, I'll go back to class and I teach and start preparing for the exams. I have lots of exams to start marking and process. I believe that my children are going to go back to school on Monday, and everything has to proceed even as we await the result. The result is coming. We'll get a leader of whatever color code, as Terry was putting it. Whether it is yellow or blue, it is our leader. We'll impress them and we move forward. We are not going to have two leaders. We're going to have one leader. So
Well, eventually.
yeah. So eventually we'll have those that would be rejoicing, others would be taken aback and say, well, we didn't get it. But then you live to fight another day. We have 5 years to come. You will prepare as we are in a continuous cycle. You'll start preparing for the presidency after you've not met the threshold.
You have a system in place, you have a system of redress. You're saying you're not going to suffer bad leadership for 5 years. You're convinced you'll be able to walk it back.
I'm convinced that if, as a country, we operate within definite frameworks of engagement. Right now, we came here because there is Lookup TV media that has actually brought us together. That is an organizational framework that has been created for people who want to sit down and talk and air what they are thinking to others. With such a framework existing so that you have a channel where you are selling your thoughts, where you are giving your opinions, where you have something that you can tell to others, that framework is very important. But it has to fit within another definite framework, which is now where we are bringing in the policy dimension or strategic dimensions that people have to pursue. And now, when you actually now fit this within an organized way of doing things, which is where I'm saying, yes, we have the structure or structures. Let us now fit the strategic dimensions, and that is now put systems that guide us. I will tell you, the minute we have those systems that are guiding us, so that if we say children, he says that the children are supposed to go back on Monday. They were supposed to have gone back today.
Today, 11th.
Today,
yes.
11.
Yes.
Then, our government, the minister, a professor,
Magoa.
yes, decides, no, it is not today, it is Monday. That is now creating anarchy in a system. When you have said that this is what is going to happen, let people obey that. The minute you start bending it, it is the reason people are not coming back to work. Education CS, who is known to be a no-nonsense guy, has given extra days. Who are you, Dr. Mageto, to actually tell me that I can now go back today? So all we are trying to say is institutions should submit to the systems they have put in place and ensure that they are followed. Don't break them. Otherwise, you are going to create anarchy. And you may not see that the behavior of my own employee is actually tied to the decision that the CS education created. Because if people are not moving to school, there is no transport. So he can very easily tell me, from where I come, vehicles were not moving. I cannot say they were moving because I wasn't there. So what we are trying to say is we have to enforce systems that we have created so that everything can move smoothly, and that we are not giving opportunity to.
But yeah, I'll see you sitting with governors and members of parliament. I would like to be in that crowd.
I will invite
What are
you.
your closing comments, Dr. Geto?
Well, we are in the situation that we are in because we voted. We are going to be patient and wait for the results. IBC has to do the right thing. They have to do it correctly. They got to give us, they got to meet our expectations. So once again, I would want to urge the Kenyans to brave for this grinding and grueling process. It is going to take quite some time. We need to pray for peace. We need to pray for comfort. Let's not start being tensional or having any other expectations. Eventually, we are going to have a leader that may not please you, a leader that may be of your expectations. Either way, we are Kenyans and we're in Kenya. We got to work together with whoever leader that is going to be declared by the IBC chair. Dr. Kamau?
Yes, thank you very much. We are at a space where we have landed in a scenario that is not precedented, in the sense that we are looking at people passing messages that they have not verified and are causing confusion. Yesterday I woke up to a lineage of governors that have been elected in some locations, and it turned out later that they were not true. And somebody has deliberately crafted that message so that he actually positions themselves whichever way. Mine is to request those who are in the privileged position to communicate messages so that they are factually treat what messages they are passing to others, because they are the agents of the confusion that is coming. They are the sources of the anxiety. They are the reasons why our heads of churches have to actually now invoke the name of God in matters that otherwise are moving right as far as IEBC is concerned. So I will say this: we have an opportunity to change a government, but our lives should go on. People should go back to work. We should not sit and wait. Opportunities don't wait for us tomorrow. Let us get back and be productive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
The message is clear. You have to wait. You have to wait. You voted. Now there's a process going on. You wait, and we shall tell you when it's done. Thank you for watching Look Up TV. Have a good night.